Hi and welcome to the second episode of Compton Goes Pro. My name is Dan, I'm the editor in chief of ISO 1200 Education. The last time we talked about Compton's backstory and finding his niche. In today's episode, we will draw on these findings and continue to dissect Compton's journey. We will talk about the phases of Compton's transition and creating your own luck. As always, we will have a Q&A segment at the end of the episode. Please feel free to submit your questions in the chat box. Now let's jump in right away. Hi Compton. Nice having you here.
Thank you for having us.
I see you're missing your light in the background, right?
Yeah. Let's not talk about it.
Okay. It's
Planning.
I mean, anyways, because the date is kind of strange. I just recognized a few days ago that's actually just before Easter time, right? And so everybody is kind of almost already off for the weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry for that.
It's been a crazy couple of days with everything that's
Okay.
going on, but planning, and I thought I had everything planned out, but obviously you have to look at these things sometimes because you know how these things go.
Right. But you're okay and you're settled and we can talk, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So today we will chat about the close correlation between your photography career and your private life in
Yes.
the beginning, vice versa, right? Because that's closely connected. So let's start with a topic you mentioned once in a talk we had privately, so off record. You said that having luck is a wrong conception, so this topic seems to be really triggering you. You even mentioned that when people say that you are lucky being a successful photographer, you perceive this as a kind of an insult. What do you mean by that, or why?
The reason being, don't get me wrong, there is a percentage of luck with involved within certain things you do,
Right.
but I'm a big um proponent for the idea that you create your own luck. So, and that comes from the fact that you put in the hard work, you put in the graph, I'm up till 3, 4 a.m. in the morning sometimes putting in those work that my clients sometimes don't see or people don't see on social media. So when someone do come to me and said, yeah, you're lucky, you've got this, you've got that, I'm like, no, I actually create that luck by putting in those hard graphs, those hard nights, long nights to get that got me there. So yes, it does upset me a little bit when people say it's lucky, but there's a lot of things that people don't see that I do, that got me to the point I am today. And don't get me wrong, there are days where I feel like I've not done enough. So I'm always pushing to do even more, and I know for a fact that by doing so, I will then, bring myself more opportunities to even be better and even take on bigger clients. So yeah, it does annoy me a little bit when I hear people say it's luck, but I've been doing this for 8 years now, and I've worked my butt to get to where I'm at today. So yeah, there is an element of luck involved, but that is created due to the work that I put in behind the scenes.
Right. Because I've kind of the same experience, right? I mean, luck is really something we need sometimes, but luck only happens when we had kind of the pre-work, when we actually put in the work before, because otherwise this kind of luck cannot really happen, right?
Yes, 100%. You have to
Yeah.
put in the work. Like
Yeah.
because you look at athletes who are winning in terms of whatever field they're in. There's a lot of things that we don't see as supporters of those athletes that they do behind the scenes to get them to where they're at. And I think we spoke about this briefly in our first podcast and about Kobe Bryant and the work ethic that he put in behind the scenes to get him to the level he was at, that he played at before he retired. And that's the kind of mantra I've got. It's like I would rather be at home editing now and doing edits and learning and developing my skill as a photographer, as a photo editor, than actually go out and party, which is weird to say because I'm still quite young, but that's just the work ethic and the mindset that I've got now because I know where I want to be at in the next 5 years. So yeah, I've got to put in the work now and make certain sacrifices. That's another thing that when they talk about luck, there's a lot of sacrifices that are made behind the scenes as well. I've sacrificed time with my family in order to pursue this dream. So when people say it's luck, it's not.
Yeah, I really get that. And luck is kind of the component that can play into it, but without, as you said, with
Hard
the
work.
athletes or with the actors or whatever, or whoever, you have to put in the work, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise, luck doesn't add nothing to it, right?
100% agree with that.
Okay, okay. I just know we had this personal talk off records, and I know that it was this kind of well, that's this kind of topic that triggers you a little bit, right? So
Yes,
I
100%.
understand. And
Yeah,
especially, and we will talk now about the relation with the family and stuff like that. So if we would be single or it's just our own life and it's just our own time, that's kind of okay, right? But it's all the balance that plays into the, well, into the whole area. And then luck is just like, yeah, what people see. So what's the quote? The quote is like, the overnight success is like 10 years in the making or something
y-
like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's yeah.
right.
It does not. Yeah, some people might have an opportunity given the fact that social media can propel someone to stardom within 24 hours. But when it
Sure.
comes to hard work and hard graft and longevity, those things takes years and
Yeah.
years of practice.
Okay. So that's now out of the way, right? Okay. Cool. So for about the last 8 years, you have been building your personal brand. You have been building, expanding your portfolio. So step by step, right? And you actually have paid client work. So all while having a family and your little son, which is now about what, 6 years or 7 years old?
Five going on six. Yes, he's going to be six this
Sorry.
year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So please explain how you could or still can cope with all these different fields of action because this really seems to be a lot, right?
It's about having that support system and even I've been truly blessed with someone that understands that what I'm trying to chase or what I'm chasing, the dream I'm chasing, require these certain sacrifices. And a lot of support from extended family members as well has really helped that process. So it's important to have that communication. Sometimes I don't get it right every time. No one will get it right every time. So sometimes I will take on jobs knowing the fact that I may potentially have already had something planned with my family. And then obviously I have to turn around and say, look, I'm sorry. I have to take this job on because this job could then potentially lead to another job. But because I've got such a supportive partner, she understands that and she really gets it that it's not that I'm trying to get away from my personal responsibilities of being a family part of my family and spending quality time with my family. It's just that I've got this dream of becoming a professional photographer, so I have to take these steps and take on these jobs. Yes, I'm now in a better position to dictate that a little bit. But at the beginning, a lot of it was down to just having that pure support. My in-laws really support us a lot as well in terms of childcare. So that's very important and very big because whenever I can't make it to do something, maybe pick my little boy up from school or even drop him off, they will come in handy in terms of taking care of that side of things for us. Whether it involves picking my partner up from work, back and forth from work, they will do that as well. So it's super, super important to have a support system around you that helps you to get to that next level and get and understands that this is not just for me. In the long run, it will benefit us all at some point. So I'm at that point now where I can schedule my work around family life. But before I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I've missed many parties, many family events because I've had to go do a job or I was asked to do a job on that particular day. But now I've got a bit more of a better balance with that. Like for the past couple of days, for instance, it's currently half term here in the UK, so my little boy's off school. So we've spent some quality time. We went to the beach. We're out to the park. We've met with some family and friends. So it's been really refreshing because I've been working flat out for the past 3 weeks, pretty much nonstop. So having this couple of days just to relax was quite important. So yeah, it took me a while to get to this point, but now that we're here, it's been helpful.
How to put this, we can afford to have this quality time, which is absolutely necessary, but
Yes.
it needs the time before to actually get there, right? And that's what's hard to understand mostly for a lot of people, I guess. So
Yeah.
what do you recommend to somebody that is on his on her own? So I mean, there's not really any obligation with having a relationship or child, but it's still the same setup, right? So there's
Yeah.
not really party, and there's not really too much of social life or whatever, right?
Yeah, you can take for me for if I recommendation would be to, yes, take on as much jobs that you could, but also
Okay.
don't just take on any and every job. Take on the jobs that will lead you to where you want to be, but also try and find some sort of balance. At least if you're taking on jobs, if you're going to take on jobs Monday to Sunday, make sure you leave 1 or 2 days in between there for some you time, some relaxation time, because burnout is an absolute killer. There's nothing worse than being burnt out, and don't want to sit in front of a computer, don't even want to take any photos, don't want to edit. So take some time, find some sort of balance. Yes, it's going to be tough, saying no to jobs, but sometimes it's better to say no and be honest with that person, or even try and reschedule. That might be a good thing as well. But finding that balance is important. You do not want to burn yourself out, because burnout is not good. I've been there, I've done it, and I still do it occasionally now. And it will take maybe 1 or 2 people from outside of my circle sometimes to recognize that I'm working too hard and I need to chill. So be careful. Plan your weeks. Plan maybe a couple hours, maybe a day where you just go for walks. We go out. There's a local park around here. There's also a local sort of like pond where we can go for like a little stroll. So there is different things you can do, but make sure you find a decent balance with work and me time. I call it me time, quality time.
No, absolutely. I mean, I really get that, right? And if you don't have this kind of relations or this setup,
Priorities.
priority, thank you, you need to do, right? I mean, I could sit on my computer or shooting, and then the me time 2 days would be editing, right? So
Yeah.
it's not me time, it's
No.
actually then doing the stuff. So it is really hard if you're on your own. In my experience, it's really hard to stick to a schedule that's actually healthy.
Yeah. But you need
So
to, because in the
yeah,
long run, it will just lead to complete
absolutely.
burnout, and
I know.
that's not good either.
Okay. How do you keep up with your son in a way of, I know you now it's Easter time, you have, and and I guess you're dropping off your little son in the morning in the school and then picking him up or something like that, right? But besides that, sometimes probably it's not working. So what's the plan B? I know you hate plan Bs, but what's the plan B with him sometimes?
So with that, I will always schedule in ahead with my in-laws, who I mentioned before, really help me out. So shout out to Angela and and Paul, my in-laws. They really support me with that, because I've been absolutely blessed with the factor that my son school is literally about 3 minute 4 minute walk away from their house. So whenever I have a job scheduling that I need to be there slightly early, I would drop him off before school to their house, and then I can go ahead with whatever job I've got to do, so I can get there in terms of traffic. So planning ahead is quite important. So I always try to give them at least say 24 to 48 hours notice if they can support me here. And 10 times, 9 times, maybe even 9.9% of the time, um, they out of 10, they always help and come in handy. So just having them around helps me with that planning phase of working around if I have to do a job that require me to be there quite early in the morning. And then if I need to be back, or I can be back for the afternoon pickup, then they will do that as well for me. So that's been quite beneficial.
Okay, but it really seems that, I mean, you have kind of a probably not the perfect, but of a really, really, really good solution. But it seems not to be possible for everybody, like
Yeah,
hypothetically, right?
yeah.
So it is really making, it seems to be making sacrifices at some front or at some part all the time. So it just does as a feel. Is this correct?
Yes, 100%, all the
Okay.
time. It's not just, it seems to be all the time, uh,
Okay.
which could be good and could be bad, but those sacrifices, if you don't make them, you don't know where you're gonna end up. So it's quite important that you at least try to make some sort of sacrifice, and some sort of compromise as well. So let's reverting back to what you asked before. So a way I always do it is I would only plan or take on shoots that would start at 10 a.m. and yes, maybe finish before 2 o'clock. That's how I usually plan my shoot. So I will start a shoot from 10 a.m. and then finish no later than 2 p.m., which gives me the cushion time to get back to do the school run, but also do the drop off in the morning, and take into consideration traffic if I do have to travel to that job. So there's a lot of planning as well involved. So a lot of foresight, is that how you say it? Foresight, like looking ahead and thinking that this is what could happen, but I will need
Sure.
to be where at. Say I need to be in Manchester, where I now live in Winslow. I need to be in Manchester, which is about 30-minute drive on a normal basis. It will
Okay.
it will probably take me about an hour to get there, so I'll plan that in ahead.
Okay. So, but actually, if this would work out like, like 99% like a charm, that's actually why we are self-employed, right? So that's kind
Yes,
of planning your own day or life or week or whatever. So, well, yeah, this sounds nice, but you have to create this schedule on your own and it's your own luck, right? Because it's all about your own planning.
yes.
Yeah,
And balancing, just balancing your schedule, just
right.
planning and balancing, finding that of evenness, I would say, for it, like, because like I said, you don't want to overwork yourself or take on too much stress as well. So making sure that you have each and everything planned out well ahead is quite important to take some of that stress off you.
Absolutely, but I know it from myself. Then you get a new request for an assignment, right? I'm always afraid that if I do not take this job, or I mean, the next job or the request or the assignment, it could then lead to some downtime and not enough money, and then all these fears we have as
Yes,
self-employed, right? So and this kind of let you keep you running in the hamster wheel, which, as you just said, is completely unhealthy. So
yes.
how do we how do we actually stop it, or like how do we actually just not react to being all the time fearful and afraid about not earning enough money?
Uh, For me, in terms of looking at it from what I did and my perspective, what I would say is you have to at some point learn to say no. It sounds really harsh, but you have to say no, because what I also find that you end up taking on jobs that are not necessarily enjoyable in that case, and which leads to even more stress. So you say you've already gone into the situation really stressful, like you mentioned. So you end up taking on a lot of jobs. So when I talk about finding that balance, is saying no to certain jobs, not because you don't want the money, but because in the long run it's going to be beneficial for you. So that's been the thing for me, is that, like, I've been there. I've done 7 days a week. I was doing like jobs, just running around. But then I realized that I was just doing jobs that I didn't necessarily enjoy. I was only doing it just because I thought I needed the money to survive. But as time progress and I start to then find a little bit more balance, where I was like, no, I knew I wanted to be doing mainly portrait, fashion, and lifestyle. So I started ease up with, in terms of taking on more, say, wedding jobs. I do still do weddings now, but I do them very bespoke. So mainly close family and friends, or if I think I can actually manage on my own, because I'm a one man band. So it's important that I find a balance, because weddings in particular, they are long days. I do love them, enjoy them, but not as much as I enjoy creating the portraits, because weddings can be a lot more stressful. So I try not to do as many of those, which then gives me that balance. So most of my jobs now, mainly 2 to 4 hours. So in between the day, so I would start at 10, like I said, finish at 2. So 9 times out of 10, those are the times I'm working throughout the week.
Right. So, as we talked probably in the last episode, it's quality over quantity. I get that,
Yes.
right? And then there are the 2 hour jobs or 3 hours jobs, which is probably just the shooting, which means you will have to have post production and delivery, and
Yes.
which adds another 100% to the job itself. Uh, but still, don't you have the urge or the pressure that you feel like, uh, that will be a great job and I could use this hypothetically 500 pounds, 300 pounds, 2000
Yeah.
pounds, whatever. So, this kind of hamster wheel, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you just really, you just like say like, nope,
No.
even if it's your agency or the model, or you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. It all depends. Like I said, it's for me, I assess the job based on what's the requirement from the client. What does the client need from me? I will ask those questions first before I say yes, like ask the important questions. And also I'll also check my schedule as well, because that's important to make sure I check my schedule, so I'm not um filling up my schedule with a lot of stuff that will then take up a lot of time when it comes to post processing as well. I do that occasionally, still do that. Like, you slip into that habit occasionally as a professional, because you take on a lot of jobs and you just end up doing jobs and jobs every day. Then you get a backlog of like editing to get done as well. So yeah, it's quite hard, because as humans, we all know we cannot survive without money. So you need to have money, but at the same time you need to have that what's the word I'm looking for, that sense of that sense of sanity, because as much as I would love to have £1 million in the bank and do all these things, I do feel that sometimes having a lot of money does not make you any happier. So if you enjoy what you do, then that's more important. So I enjoy doing certain jobs, so that's why I'll do more of it, if that makes sense, rather than just do it for the money. Yes, it helps having some money for having some money for doing that job, but I I only do jobs that I enjoy the most, because that then brings me a lot of joy, and when I and then hand over the final product to my clients. So yeah, it's very hard to say no. It's very, very hard to say no, but it's important that you do say no sometimes, just for your own sanity.
No, absolutely. And that's really good advice, because especially for beginners, at least in the business field, right? Not in
Yeah.
photography, but starting the business, it's this kind of challenge to say no. And it's not only about your own sanity or one's own sanity, it's also actually at the end probably about the quality and the strategy where you want to go with your photography, right? Where you're heading.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yeah.
and that's kind of really crucial advice. But I know how I felt, like, okay, always in the realms of portrait photography, but that's cool. And they are asking, and this is, and here's a headshot, and it could have been like 24/7. And since I do not have a family, I could
Yeah.
actually kind of, I would have done that, but
Yeah.
it's not healthy. It's completely insane. Plus, it's probably not really healthy for the business itself and for the strategy. And that's a big part of it. We have to realize, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. For you, like you said, for your long-term business strategies might not be
Right,
feasible or
right,
beneficial. So
right,
yeah,
right, right. So we already talked about that, but let's try to conclude this in this way, because you already made your statement. But you are at this stage right now, family, all what's going on. You're not afraid that your physical or mentally would burn out just at this stage. So it seems you manage yourself pretty well. What's this compared
Y-
to? Not
I've
compared.
tried. I wouldn't say I'm perfect. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I've
Sure,
tried.
but you are aware about it, right?
Yes, yes, that's the main thing is that I am aware, and I think if everyone watch our previous podcast, they would know that back in 2020, I went through a phase of sort of depression, and now that I am aware of what caused that phase and what triggered that, I can now deal with it a little bit better and manage it a little bit better. So that's why I try and manage my workload a little bit better as well, so that I don't bring any more of that sort of negative connotations back into my head. So yeah, it's
Right.
important, very important.
Right. So that's kind of a lesson learned, and probably it also helps that you have your support system around
Yes,
you, right? Your
100%.
partner, right? Because that's one of the things. If I'm looking again on me, if I'm kind of self-floating, it's hard to find, well, to have this lesson learned and then to actually apply it, right? Because there's nobody around telling me like, okay, stop or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. And I
You know
guess there
what
are a
would be
lot of, yes, please.
Sorry. Yes,
No,
you know
no.
what I think would be great, and something that really help is that if you are someone that living on their own and you do the creative stuff and you find that you're on your own a lot, is find like-minded people around your area that do photography or video or whatever you feel you're in, and have a catch up with them now and again. Just invite them out for a drink, just overthink, just not talk about the work you're doing. Just literally just have a catch up. Yeah, you might end up speaking a little bit about what you do, but just yeah, join a group, a local group. Just check around, see if there's any photo walks, photo meetups. These type of things can be beneficial for someone who feel like they're alone a lot in terms of this creative industry, and having that sort of pressure of being alone as well on top. So it's important that you try and reach out to other like-minded people. And I'm sure we all, as photographers, as videographers, we all have people that are willing to sit down and have a conversation with us, or even have a beer or a glass of wine or something, and just listen to what we have to say, or just have a chat.
So it's really about deliberately building your own network, right?
Yes.
So your social network, I mean, sorry,
Yeah.
so that you're really embedded in kind of a, not in your own echo chamber, but within actually social interaction.
Yeah, yeah. So that you don't feel like you're trapped and you're
Right.
on your own, because you're
Right.
not 100%. I can say this now, you're not, because I've been there.
No.
You're not.
No.
There's a lot of people out there that's exactly like you.
No. Okay. Sound advice. Let's now concentrate on your actually a bit more on the photographic transition phases, right? So we talk now about the network, about the family situation. So now let's go into the photographic transition itself. So before starting your work in your studio, which you have now, you had a kind
Yeah,
of a pre studio era. So you were shooting model portfolios and portraits outdoor, but the results seem to have the aim to be perceived as a studio work. So that's what I have seen on the finals, right? So I have three questions about that. And let's unpack them one after another. But the three questions are: where did you shoot? Why did you shoot outdoors? And what lighting approach did you use? So where did you shoot these outdoor portraits that looked like you would have done them in a studio? Because I was astonished. I have seen the photos. I have first seen the finals, and I
yeah,
have actually seen how they were done. So the behind the scenes, I was really like, wow, that's cool.
yeah.
So where and why?
So the photos that you are mentioning, which you can see on my social media pages, were taken right outside in my back garden. And reason being is I had a studio previously back in 2018-19, and I got rid of the studio but kept a lot of the studio equipment. So it then all started out with a friend of mine. His girlfriend had came from wherever I think she lived in London, came down from London, and she came to visit, and she mentioned about potentially doing some work together. And I thought, I've got all the equipment here. I can pretty much set everything up as I would in a studio environment outside. Why not give it a go? And yeah, that's how it kind of started. And one thing led to another. Then the agency that she was signed with saw the work, and they then got in touch. Other models within her sort of friend circle saw it, and they got in touch, and it just basically escalated from there, where I was doing them at least 4 or 5 times a week. In terms of the lighting approach, I am a big fan of natural light, but I'm also very versed in studio lighting as well. So hence I had a studio before, so I did a lot more studio stuff back in 2018, 2019. So I knew how to deal with studio light, and also of course know how to handle natural light. So my thought process was, can I combine the two? And how would I approach this in terms of combining that? So I started off with one light, or start off with one light and just the sunlight, weather dependent as well. It was very weather dependent whenever I shot outdoors. So I remember one shoot I had, it rained, snow, and hailstone all in the space of one day. So so
So this was quite a challenge, right? So this is
that
really
was a
like
challenge. I also
you're
had
going through all the different situations.
Yeah, that was a challenge. So in terms of making it look studio, like I said, it's because I had those backdrops, and some of the equipment I use are all equipment that easy accessible. The backdrops, I use the paper backdrop, the paper rolls. So I used those, which I had various colors available due to having a studio. Um, Cheap backdrop stands. I also got on to using Pixar Pro Lighting, who is now a sponsor of my of our studio and the studio equipment that we use. So I start off with one, I think it was a Godox 8200 light and one Pixar Pro softbox. And that's all I did with outdoors. And I also have, the 5-in-1 reflectors. I have one of those cheap reflectors, and that was
Right.
it. And
Okay. But the lighting, so the lead lighting was actually a strobe, right? So the key light,
yes,
it
yes,
was because otherwise it really would kind of potentially could go crazy with the sun and
oh,
so the key light was a strobe, right? Artificial
yes.
lighting. Okay. And outdoor, as far as I understand, was because that's what was available for you as a location that time, right?
Yeah, and also we were going through COVID. But so this all the outdoor
Ah,
stuff started back in 2020.
right.
So yeah, back in 20, I think it was May 2020 was when I did the first ever outdoor garden shoot. I coined it's now coined the garden shoots, garden photography. So that was the first time I did that. So yeah, a funny story as well going back to me. So I'm hoping the model will be okay for mentioning this, but a model by the name of Nina. Hi Nina. So Nina had come down from I think Preston, which is about an hour away to do a shoot. We had planned this shoot for probably about a month. We had the shoot floor planned out, and no word of a lie, as Nina arrived at my house, I had already had everything set up. It started to rain, so not wanting to let Nina go back disappointed, what I then did was I cleared my kitchen table. I took everything into my living room, and we ended up doing the shoot in my kitchen, which then turned out to be actually quite interesting and fun, and really good. And I ended up getting a lot of work from that. And even then, a lot of people did not realize it was done in the kitchen until I did the BTS stuff and showing them the behind the scenes, which is quite has been quite key to us even meeting, even in being introduced to each other. So BTS was the sort of like the secret ingredient to say the least. But
Absolutely.
think on my feet,
Absolutely.
and
So it
that
was
was
it was
the
like by coincidence, it was like your first step into kind of a or again into a studio situation
yeah,
by because of the weather situation. And yeah, the result is the result, right? The final is the
yeah,
final. So I have seen a lot. That was the introduction to us each other. I've seen a lot from your outdoor shoots, and then I have seen the BTS, so the secret sauce, and I was really astonished. Okay, that was outdoor, and it looks like, well, obviously a white studio, whatever, but perfect. So no, step by step, that's what you're doing, right?
yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. And it doesn't matter where you actually shoot. It's all about the final and about your clients, right? And then about the follow-ups, what you potentially could have
Yes,
as a future project.
yeah. If you,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, no, please. No, no, please.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, if you know your gear and know what it can do for you, right? Anything's possible. And if you understand lighting, that would be my biggest advice is don't focus on the camera. Like everyone wants the fancy new shiny camera. Don't focus on the camera. Focus on understanding lighting and what you can and can't do, how you can and cannot shape light. And that will ultimately be the key to elevating your photography to the next level. Because given whatever circumstances you're in, once you understand lighting and you understand how to deal with whatever you're chucked is comes your way, then I can almost guarantee you will take your photography to the next level.
Absolutely. And what you mentioned before with your outdoor shots, you were working with one light. Obviously, probably you had a rim light from the sun or stuff like that, right? But
Yeah,
the key light was the one artificial strobe, so there was one light.
yeah,
And once somebody starts to understand not only this one light, but the direction and the modifying, so soft light, hard light, whatever, that's where it starts to progress,
yeah,
right? Okay. Okay. So, and then today you're shooting in your own studio. So
yeah,
we are away from the garden shoots. um, you have your photo studio in Manchester, United Kingdom. It's a studio business that you're running together with a partner,
yeah, yeah.
but still you had to commit to it. So please tell me or tell us about the probably scary decision again going back or renting going back a studio space, which means a financial commitment. And why did you decide to do that? Besides the bad weather in the United Kingdom.
Let's start with a why first because it's a quite interesting story. And my
Okay.
business partner Damar, shout out to Damar, would love this story. So Damar had messaged me previously. We were having conversation because at the time I was going through my mental health phase. So we were having regular conversation. He was one of those persons that I first reached out to when I knew I was, feeling this type the type of way I was feeling. So we were having numerous conversation, and during one of those conversation, Damar mentioned that he was looking for a space to conduct a podcast on a more regular basis, and he knew that I had previously booked studios in Manchester to use, and he was like, "Do you think, or would you recommend doing this on a monthly basis?" And I said that could potentially cost you a lot of money. And jokingly, I said, maybe we should open a studio together. And yeah, we carried on talking. And the next day, I received another phone call from Damar, and he said he had a chat with his partner about the idea of potential opening a studio. And he then brought it back to me and said, I'll be interested if you are. And when you kind of like you look yourself like, is he being serious? So I was like, are you for real? Which was my first response. And he was like, yeah, 100%. I think we can make it work. And given the experience that I had with opening my own studio previously, I knew that having somebody else on board to help take off some of that financial burden and financial pressure would be beneficial. And whatever I learned from my previous experience, I can also bring to the table. We then literally set out looking. That was it. We went looking for studio spaces. It took us probably about a month or so before we found the space that we have now. We went and we had a viewing. We spoke to an accountant to give us some ideas about registering as a business. There was also the planning phase of coming up with a name, which was quite interesting. We had different names, but one name always came back to me, because Damar owns and runs a blog site, which had the name Cool in it, and I thought maybe going with Be Cool Studios. When you say something to yourself the first time and then you say it again and it starts to sound interesting and fun, and that was it. It was like Be Cool Studios. Yeah, and I then got onto, I think it was Fiverr, it was called, to try and get someone to make us some logos and some designs, some mock-ups to give us a look of what the logo would look like. And we just kept the ball rolling, and everything started to fall in place. And before you know it, we had our own studio space, and which we've now been open, I think it's been like since August last year. So I don't know how much was that, 8 9 months. So we've been open now, and it was rocky to the first month, which we knew was going to happen, given the experience that I had, and also the fact that of opening a new space in a pandemic probably wasn't the best idea. But for us, we were willing to take that risk, given we also had a lot of contacts in terms of friends who were within the creative industry who we thought would benefit from having a space that would be dedicated to helping them, and creating a space where we can also go in and do our own thing and have
Right.
fun and enjoy.
And it worked out well, right?
Oh
Because
yeah, 100%. I
if I
think
see what you're create, you as the photographer, right? What you're creating, what I see on Instagram, so the social
yeah,
media, you're shooting there. I know you're still doing outdoor shoots, depending on what the model or the client needs, but you're shooting there all the time,
yes, I shoot there very regularly. I said it's for and foremost, it's a place for us to be creative, but we
right?
also have our motto at Be Cool Studios is be cool, be true, be you. We want to inspire the next generation, and this is where the teaching side of me comes involved as well.
Yeah,
Because some stuff I'm going to be speaking about later on as we progress with the podcast. I will then introduce some stuff to
Yeah,
everyone that
absolutely.
I think
I
might be
just love I
beneficial.
just love the be cool because it's so not typical kind of a brand, right? But
Yeah,
it's a cool feeling. Sorry. It's
because
really
we're just
it's
cool
yeah,
guys.
yeah, it's yeah, of course, obviously, of course. But you're okay, so your business partner, but he is still on the audio side. He's not a photographer, right?
Yes, he is a photographer as well as
Okay, okay, sorry.
he also plays around with video as well. But yeah, he's a photographer as well. So
Okay. So, and what what happened to the idea of the podcast studio within the photo studio?
the
So you have
podcast
a
studio is still there. It's still there. We are working on it. Like I said, unfortunately, due to time and schedules at the moment,
right.
we're unable to actually record any podcast as of yet. But there were also some other stuff that we needed to take care of first, in terms of audio, visuals, etc.
Let's talk quickly about the gear because since you're now in the studio, so you're in a controlled environment. What's your take and strategy for yourself when investing into the lighting gear? And there's so many brands out there, and we talked about this off record. What's your take or philosophy? Just to get a little bit a glimpse for the viewers here.
I would say buy good quality gear. Invest the extra pounds it will cost to actually get something that's decent, something that will last you years. So I've been there. I've ordered lights that I thought that were great, but they were the cheap Amazon lights. But I have since now, I think it's been 4 years since I've had my Godox AD200, which is a light that is also portable and which I can take on location with me, or I can use it in the studio environment as well. So Godox is a really good brand to invest in. There's also Pixar Pro, which I mentioned earlier, who's also a sponsor of our studio. And they provide all the gear that we've got in our studio. We've actually bought those, by the way, for full disclosure. We've actually paid money. Yes, we got a discount, but we did buy those. Pixar Pro, which is sort of an off-brand of Godox. So Pixar Pro items would work with any Godox items, um, and vice versa. So Pixar Pro is a really, really good brand. Don't think that you need to invest in the high-end brands like the Pro Photo, etc. All you need is some quality lights and quality modifiers. So your modifiers would be the key. For me, I would recommend, if I had to recommend now, I'd recommend going with anything that's 300 watts and above. Obviously, if you do not have the budget, you could, like I said, you can go with the Godox 8200, which Pixar Pro also sells their own version, which is a Pika 200. I would highly recommend that. What's great about that Godox setup, it also comes with a universal Bowens mount and the S-type bracket mount. So in terms of modification, you can modify it with a load of modifiers that are widely available on Amazon, on eBay, and all your local shops. So it's important to buy quality rather than just go because you think this is going to work. It's cheap. It's but do not buy buy something that's absolute rubbish. That's gonna you're gonna have to change in a month or two, or that breaks easily. So save
Right.
your money and invest in quality lighting.
Right, but that's the thing. I just want to make one note here, so for the viewers, right? So we are not paid by Pixar Pro or by
No, no,
Godox.
no. We're not
I
paid
don't.
by
No,
Pixar.
no. I just, I
Yeah,
just want to mention this
yeah.
once
I just
more.
love what the gear that they do, and it's worked for me. And
Absolutely.
like I said, I've paid for everything that I get from Pixar Pro. I always spend money on it. But yeah, I just
No,
wanted to mention it because I use those gear. You can see in all my BTS, I use the gear, and even when we spoke about doing the garden stuff, I had previously bought some of the gear for my studio when I owned my own studio. So I was using their gear before I actually knew a lot about the company.
Right. Now, I just want to mention this because, talking about, let's say, specifically Godox, right? With all
Yes.
the off brands, so Pixar Pro or Flashpoint in the United States or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, that's the Godox platform, right? And the Godox platform works on the Bounce mount, which is
Yes.
fantastic. So this is really, really, really versatile. And if we talk with somebody like very professional gear, obviously it will be about Profoto, Elinchrome, Braun,
Yeah.
Color, and another few brands. But I'm using Godox myself since like 6 years because I did a lot of on location work, so I need battery powered
Yeah.
strobes. And Godox was just the absolutely most versatile and actually affordable system
Yeah.
for what you get, right? And
Yes.
yes, it is probably not as durable like Profoto,
Yeah.
but for this price, on 20 years, you buy three Godox.
Yeah.
So it really sounds a bit strange, but it's really, you need to have this consistency in lighting. So
Yeah.
please don't go for this cheap Amazon, whatever, China knockoffs from whatever. But it's not necessary to invest into a high quality brand for this kind of photography.
Save your money. Like save your money. If you
Right.
wanted to get to the Pro Photo, you will save your money to get there. But if you invest in Godox or Pixpro or what's the American version? Explorer,
Flashpoint
Flashpoint
Explorer or
Explorer.
Flashpoint with absolutely, yes.
You look at how many professionals within the YouTube space, within the photography space, how many professionals are using those items, those
Right,
particular brands. There's a lot of
right.
professional photographers who use them. So yeah, I highly recommend them.
Absolutely. Plus, what you said was is really important. The modifier is important. So please invest in various kind of modifiers. So strip box, an octo, a small, a large, etc.
Yeah.
Because it's all about shaping the light, right?
Yes. All
Yep.
about shaping the light,
Yep.
100%.
Yep. Okay. Okay, cool. Concluding topic because we're talking about money and investment, really just concluding. So your business economics and your personal economics, which includes your family and your partners and your rent, your private rent, as you started to go back renting a studio, did you actually understand, did you calculate the risk for diving deeper in your photography career? So the point where you're now, the phase where you're now, or you just took kind of an educated guess and a leap of faith forward? Was there kind of a conscious decision, okay, bookkeeping, that's what we're doing, or let's go?
There was a conscious decision. I needed to obviously make sure that the figures were right, of course, but there's a hint of that take that leap as well. But there was a lot of calculating in advance because I had previously saved up a little bit of money, which I then used towards a couple months rent, getting the studio ready. But please bear in mind, this was half and half. So myself and my business partner we were both putting money into this, so that made the process a lot easier. But in terms of planning, there was a structure, and there was a clear um, uh, insight into I would need XY amount, and if we did not have a great month, then I would need to put XY amount to make sure that we get to a level where our bills are paid, everything's on time, and we have no issues in terms of running the day-to-day running of the studio.
The recommendation, it's really important that at least for, let's say, 6 months or probably 8 months, you have
Yeah.
a solid financial planning, right? And
Yes.
especially if you have a partner or a family anyway, right?
100%.
Right.
100% agree.
Okay. Let's switch to the Q&A. I have two questions I would like you to answer, if that's okay for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have one from Paul from Stafford, United Kingdom.
Wow, thank you,
Um,
Paul.
how did or how still do you educate yourself on the art of portrait and people photography?
YouTube, it's full and littered with free content. Um, so there are a couple of people who I really, really admire their work and would not miss a single upload. Um, and one of those people is Lindsay Adler, a fantastic fashion photographer, amazing work. She experiments with lighting, colors, and posing. There's so much stuff that I picked up from watching her work. Um, there is another YouTube channel by the name of SLR Lounge, I think. Guy by the name of Pi Jerza. Lot of free educational content available via him. Um, who else? In terms of portrait, there's also in terms of posing, Sue Bryce, amazing educator. She's done some fantastic work. So those are like the people I look at now. In terms of learning from other people too, you've got the likes of Manny Ortiz, which would be a regular person to a lot of you guys. I watch a lot of his tutorials and then incorporate some of what they do and into my work, into my workflow, and into my style, which is then now develop into a style. And I'm only now finding that style, and a lot of people now message me saying that they can recognize my work with before even reading the caption, which is like the ultimate feedback you can have as a photographer, because once you find that your own style, you then nail down on that and keep pushing that, you will then start to see more and more interest from other clients, and then maybe other photographers asking questions as to how can I get something that's similar.
Absolutely. And that's what we see with Lindsay Adler, right? So if
Yeah,
you see a photo from Lindsay Adler, as long it's kind of indoor in this kind of setting, you know immediately that's Lindsay Adler.
that's her
But
work. Yeah,
that's her work. But and additionally, as a compliment for you, you shot outdoor a few years ago, the garden shoots,
yeah.
and you have now your studio shoots, and they look kind of exactly the same in a way of not telling you that's not a progress, that's not the point, but
Yeah,
that's your kind of the posing, the angle, sometimes the direction of the camera, right, slightly below the eyes or whatever. You have your style too, and it's recognizable. So that's fantastic. That's really fantastic.
yeah. Thank you very much. It took a while. I obviously
Of course.
I did not even notice this. Like I said, the great thing is, and one thing that led me to this point is I have the exact same workflow in terms of editing and uh, final delivery, everything from start to finish. In every shoot, I have exactly the same workflow, and I think a lot of it developed through having that. So rather than have one workflow for this and one
Right.
workflow for that, every single job has the same workflow, and it's a great quote from one of someone that you know pretty well, Mr. Joel Hedelman, I think he's called. And I remember listening to him once, and he mentioned the word KISS method, the keep it stupid simple method, and that's the method I've been using for the past couple of years, and that's led me to where I'm at today. There's no need to overcomplicate it. So yeah, keep it simple
There's no need to overcomplicate it, sure, but consistency seems
is
to be
key.
apparently also a key in the whole pipeline of processing. I mean, in the process up until the delivery, right?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Cool. One last question from Privish from Amsterdam. a broad stroke, how do you find inspiration?
Instagram, Pinterest. All depends on what sort of mood I'm in. Like I occasionally shoot what we call tests or trade for prints. And that's a great way to find sort of inspiration for concepts going on to like Instagram or Pinterest and looking up ideas. Like I would literally just type in anything. Say I wanted to do, for instance, I did a photo shoot where we use it was like silver foil as a backdrop. So we wanted sort of this futuristic theme. So I literally just went on Pinterest, I type in tin foil. That's it. Tin foil backdrops and all these different shots of all these futuristic style shoots came up, and ended up doing that shoot, and that was probably one of my most successful shoots in terms of the planning and executing of that whole setup. So in terms of inspiration, it's around us. It's around you. Look at social media, look at the people around you as well. Like look at what your people within your community are doing. That can give you inspiration as well. Like there's a lot of people who are doing great things that maybe you can create something for them to help share their story. That might be beneficial for you in the long run as well, but also for them.
Right, but you seem to do this very strategically, right? So keywords or concepts you have in mind, etc. So it's
Yeah.
not like window shopping and then starting to develop an idea. It's rather the other way around. You're researching something that you kind of already have the idea for it. Is this
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. And then
Okay.
I put my own twist on that idea.
Obviously, of course. But it's not like, okay, let's see and explore and then go into some other direction. So you have a kind of an idea what you want to do already,
Yeah.
right?
Sometimes occasionally it comes to me naturally, like I will be lying
Mm.
there or sitting or even watching television. That's a good way. Watching movies.
Right.
That's another way of finding inspiration from watching movies, and your
Yeah.
favorite shows that you watch on Netflix. They can give you a lot of inspiration as well. Like, oh, that would be a great shoot. That would be a great setup. That would look good in. But that's a great place to find some as well.
So let's do Bridgerton.
Yeah. Yes.
Season
100%.
2, let's do Bridgerton. We did just a little bit of props and a little bit of
Yeah.
dresses and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
let's do Bridgerton. Okay, cool. I get that. With this, we would conclude this episode. You have anything to add here, Compton?
Um. Just go out, get creative, be experimental, try things out, try new things, and do them again. Like I spoke at the beginning of the podcast, do them behind the scenes. Do those things that you do behind the scenes. You don't have to. And I always say this to photographers who ask me, "How do you do this?" or "How do you do this so consistently?" Is because I practice behind the scenes and I only post when I feel comfortable enough to post. So there is a lot of work that I do behind the scene that I don't post because I don't think they're ready yet. And once they are, I can then go in and try those ideas with models and other creatives, and then I can share those ideas with everyone else on social media. So try, experiment, do the do the shoots that you can within. Do self portraits. If you wanted to practice a certain lighting setup, try it out on yourself. Do self portraits in your own home. Again, you don't have to share it. Once you're comfortable and happy, then when you do have a client in front of your camera or a model in front of your camera, at least you've got a general idea of how the final shot is going to look.
Right. And by behind the scenes in this relation, you actually mean do work that you do not have to publish necessarily,
Yeah,
right? So
practice.
create practice behind the scenes, so behind the curtain. And that's probably the one last quote again from Joe Edelman. Your paraphrasing, your next shot is your best shot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And you're, and there's also, I think he also mentioned, or someone else might have done, where he said your last shot is your best shot too. Whereas in you if you cannot better the photo that you took before, then obviously you're not progressing. So you have to try and always think about
Right.
upping, going to the next. How do I take it to the next level? I love what I did in this job. How do I go to here? How do I take it to the next level? So you're always chasing after something, because when you settle and you say that I'm content, you get
Right.
complacent.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we will never settle. We are, as photographers,
I
we
have
know it's never ever, right?
I've set the bar very high. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's what it is. Okay, let me bring in the URL. So to conclude this, dear viewers, please remember to visit ISO 1200 Live Compton. It's here now on the display to submit the questions for the next show. This will be episode number 3. I hope you gained some insights, inspiration, and had a good time. Thanks for watching and listening as a podcast later on, and see you next time. And Compton, thank you so much for your time today once more.
Thank, thank you for having
And
us, and look forward to our next chat.
absolutely have a great time, guys, and talk to you all soon. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Take care, guys. Bye.